10 Terrifying True Scary Stories, Volume 8. Let's go ahead and check this out. This one's a little longer, 29 minutes long. Let's check it out, guys.
There was a brief period of time that I lived alone. When I freshly moved out of my parents' house and before I met my girlfriend and she moved in, I lived in a small one-bedroom apartment in the downstairs of someone else's house. I spent a lot of time alone during—
Yeah, I think this is like a year old, it said, Ray. I think it said this is over a year old, so yeah.
In this period of my life, besides when I was at school or work, and so I spent a lot of my time watching movies. Specifically, I liked watching scary movies pretty often. Even as an at-the-time 21-year-old guy, I still would be a little spooked trying to sleep after watching a scary movie, especially living alone in that apartment. And every time I did, I would look around the room. At a few points, I would even turn the bedside lamp on just to check around the room. The tenant upstairs wasn't home that night, as his car wasn't in the driveway, so the sounds I was hearing couldn't have been footsteps upstairs or anything like that. My nerves were really starting to set in at one point because
I feel you, Rain. Yeah.
To be honest, I couldn't tell from where in the house they were coming from.
Oh, well, Yoshi, this is 29. This is like 30 minutes long, and then I'm going to react to another Mr. Nightmare video for Chelsea, so I'll probably be live another 45 minutes to an hour, probably.
I got up to head over to the door of the bedroom and opened it. Outside of my bedroom was a very narrow hallway, which had a door to the bathroom, and then at the end of the hallway opened up to the living room. At the end of this hallway, though, like a scene right out of the movie I had watched not even an hour earlier, there was someone standing at the far end of the hallway right by the kitchen. The moonlight from outside coming into the bedroom windows and the windows in the living room was enough to see her, this woman looking right back at me. She started to walk backwards while still facing me. I didn't care though. I still screamed and backed into my room before slamming the door shut and locking it. She didn't come running over and pounding on the door.
Yeah, I like Halloween too.
Instead, I heard running up the half flight of stairs to the exit of my apartment, and then the door slammed shut. I was frozen in shock for at least 10 minutes before I felt okay to take my phone and leave the bedroom to check the apartment. It didn't take long. It was a small apartment with not many hiding places. It was empty. I rushed to lock the door, wondering who that could have been and how they got in. I didn't call the police. I couldn't tell you why. But the next day, I called the landlord and told him about it. He made a phone call to the upstairs tenant, and when I learned—
Yeah, who's this creepy lady? Creepy lady who got in his house.
Shocked me. The woman that broke into my apartment was an ex-lover of the man who lived upstairs. A crazy one at that. And after finding his address somehow, she broke into the wrong part of the house. My apartment.
Oh, apartment.
Came down to my door,
not house, my bad.
The following day, but I never got much detail from him or the landlord. I still wonder what that woman was planning on doing to him.
Crazy X. That's what it was, a crazy X.
I'm not a fan of my dad's girlfriend at all. Not from the start. Her name is Kathy. My dad has been widowed since 2019 when our mom died. And I know he's gotten lonely and he's pretty much ready to settle with anybody now. Even Kathy. And against my warnings, he doesn't listen. I've been seeing her do some sketchy things around the house, and it's really starting to freak me out now. I'll start from the beginning. I have two siblings, my 10-year-old brother Jake and my 2-year-old brother Scotty. From the day he introduced her to us, I didn't like something about her smile. It was just unsettlingly wide and exaggerated. Pretty soon he'd start bringing her around a lot more, and I just never loved her, honestly. But at first it was only because I felt something was off about her personality. Then things started happening. She's been staying with us for a while now, and a few weeks ago, I caught her in my dad's closet while he wasn't home.
Mr. Nightmare Ray.
My dad's safe is in his closet, along with where he hides the combination and some other valuables. When she saw me at the doorway, she smiled and said, "Hey, what's up, sweetie," to me, with her annoying, creepy smile. I didn't say anything other than nothing. Then she shut his closet door, and I walked away to my room. I told my dad about it, but he didn't seem concerned. A few days after that, while my dad was at work again, I just got back from school, and I was walking upstairs to my room. And as I saw Kathy leave my little brother Jake's room and shut the door behind her. I asked her what she was doing in his room, She smiled and said, "I was just opening the window, it's hot in the house." I didn't answer and walked up to my room. When I heard her go
I
downstairs
can't remember,
eventually,
Yoshi.
I snuck to Jake's room to check if she actually had opened the window, and both windows were shut. Something was up with this lady, and I knew it, and I still know it. I told my dad again, and in response, he asked me to just please be patient with the
Kathy's up to no good. I don't know what's going on with Kathy, but Kathy's up to no good.
situation, and that he knows I don't care for Kathy. I didn't bother telling Jake. Fast forward to 2 days ago. Jake, my dad, and I were all not home, and Kathy was babysitting Scotty. I came home unannounced, but I wanted to be secretive about it, because I wanted to see if I could catch her doing anything again. I snuck into the house and went to my room quietly. Eventually, from the kitchen downstairs, I started to hear Scotty crying. Not regular crying, like a very distressed kind of crying.
What the hell?
Screaming at the top of her lungs to shut the F up. It was the first time I heard her raise her voice.
Oh,
and I believe
no.
It was the first time I was hearing her true colors come out.
What the hell is Kathy doing?
I yelled at her to leave my brother alone. She was startled and shocked that I was home. And for the first time, she didn't give me her creepy smile. She looked at me blankly and went downstairs and shut the door. I called my dad and told him right away. And that night, my dad had a conversation with her about it. I don't know how it went, but I assume...
Hey, Dylan, thanks for the super chat. What's up, DKRACK? Been a hot minute. Thanks for stopping by, Dylan. How you doing, man?
Not good, because that night, I woke up in the middle of the night to something and looked up into my room. There was someone in my room, and they quickly left the room and shut the door behind them.
What the frick?
I got out of bed and opened my door.
This Kathy woman is crazy.
I saw and heard my dad's bedroom
She's
door
crazy.
close. I went over to my dad's room and opened the door. Both Kathy and my dad were laying in the bed. I woke my dad up furiously and told him Kathy was just in my room. She denied the whole thing, saying she was in bed. I don't know if my dad believed me or not, but he told me to go back to my room and he'd talk with Kathy. I obeyed, and I heard them whispering as I shut the door. I went back to bed, and I was scared. I'm still scared. I want her out of the house and out of our lives. I think she's dangerous. Why was she in my room? It's freaking me out. I worry for my family's well-being, and I don't know what we can do.
What? That's the end of the story, too? So Kathy just stayed in the house? Come on, Dad.
This one goes back a few years ago to when I was 30 years old. I was at my condo in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. My condo, which I still own, is on the second floor of a decently nice building that I won't name for privacy reasons. Whenever I go down there, it's in the colder months up north.
I hate stories where nobody ever gets caught. So nothing happened to Kathy. The story just ended with, I don't know what to do. So Kathy just got to stay in the house? The crazy woman? Jeez.
And I'm a complete beach bum when I go down there. Luckily for me, I work remotely from my job through my laptop and phone, so I've been able to retreat down there whenever I'd like. Fort Lauderdale is for the most part a pretty clean and safe city, and the specific location my building is in is no exception. That is, usually. It was the middle of January. It was late at night, past 10 o'clock. I was out on my balcony with my feet over the railing, on my laptop, when all of a sudden I heard from down below on the ground someone yelling something. They were yelling, "Yo," and "Hey you."
Yo.
At first I didn't move, taking the assumption that whoever it was talking to someone else. They couldn't possibly be calling up to me. But they followed with, "Hey you up there." And my heart skipped a beat, because now I knew they were talking to me. And my main question was, why? I set my laptop down on the chair and looked over the railing down to the ground below. There was a guy in front of a car in the parking lot, looking up at me, and he said, "Yeah, you." I asked, "What's up?" He told me to come down there so he could show me something cool. I took a better look at this guy, some guy with a backwards hat and tank top on. I assumed he was just some punky kid messing with me, so I ignored him and sat back down. When I did that, I heard him laughing as he said, "I'm gonna come up there and skin you alive, you prick."
What the frick?
I stood up again and looked at him. He had this unsettling and sinister smile on his face. I realized he looked older than I initially thought. He wasn't some kid. I literally opened my mouth to shout something back at him, but for some reason, I didn't bother. I grabbed my laptop and went inside and shut the sliding door. I expected him to yell up a couple things afterwards, but I didn't hear him do so. As uncomfortable as that made me, I felt much safer being inside. I chalked it up to just the occasional coked-up Florida lunatic on the streets. but things became next level when the silence of the room was broken by pounding on my condo door.
No!
Accompanied with a voice yelling obscenities and threats at me. It was the guy again. The bangs were so loud.
What's wrong with this guy? What the hell does this guy want? I'd be like, go the hell away. Leave me alone. I'm calling the police.
I was genuinely concerned he was going to break the door down. All I could do was yell, I'm calling the police.
Yeah,
I didn't faze
exactly
him.
what I said.
His bangs turned to these carving and stabbing noises. They probably all lasted for about a minute or two, but felt like a century until he gave one more loud angry bang, screamed one more obscenity at me, then left. I knew because I checked through the peephole. I called the police after the ordeal just to show them and report it to them. On the other side of the door, there were several stab marks in it, confirming I did hear him stabbing at it and confirming this man had a knife. I pray nobody was harmed that night. I doubt he knew me.
Yep,
I think he was
Pokemon,
just a really drugged
Mr.
out,
Nightmare
crazy person
video.
looking to hurt someone.
10 Terrifying True Scary Stories, Volume 8. That's what I'm watching right now.
I once spent a night in jail. I know everyone says it, but I didn't do shit. I was attacked by a bouncer at a nightclub in my hometown because some girl who I had history with was there, and she had the nerve to lie to a bouncer and tell him I was touching her and her friends inappropriately.
Oh my
I never
gosh.
even said a word to them.
Come on.
The bouncer came and put his hands on me and started pushing me out of the club, and honestly I pushed back in my drunken state. And of course cops were outside the bar, and between a drunk guy and a club bouncer, who are they going to side with? Well, I end up handcuffed in the back of a cop car and I'm escorted to jail, where I spent the night.
They arrested
All that was
him?
in the cell was
Jeez.
one wooden bar for sitting on, and this other guy besides me. He asked what I'm in for, and I told him for bullshit. I took one look at the guy, and I knew I didn't belong here. He had tattoos on his face, he was missing a front tooth, and he just had this face that said, "Don't mess with me or I'll cap you."
Damn.
I didn't want to rub him the wrong way, so I just tried talking with him if he talked to me. At one point, I did open up to him a bit, just because of my anger at the situation, and I needed to vent. During this time, I told him some delicate info, like where I was from, which is definitely the nicer side of town. I told him how I had people over that night since my parents were away, and we all pre-gamed and went to the club. I basically told him the rundown of the whole night. Since I was drunk, I wanted to just try and sleep, but he'd keep talking to me and it was getting annoying.
Oh gosh.
Eventually, I think he caught on and shut up. The next morning, we had to go to court because, yes, sadly I was charged with assault and trespassing. 2 bogus
Assault?
charges.
What?
My cellmate had to go too. I saw the judge before him though. He was one of the other offenders in the back of the court listening to my charges. I was released with a future court date set. A complete nightmare. But that night,
A Mr. Nightmare.
all the windows were open, so I heard everything from outside. I was hearing footsteps circling the house. Multiple sets of footsteps. I started to shut all my windows one by one on the first floor. Then I got to the backyard door, which is a sliding glass door looking out to the deck. I curiously flicked on the deck light.
Wait, did the guy he was in the cell with, like, figure out where he lives? Did he tell that guy his address or something?
And immediately, 2 dudes ran out from the light into the darkness. I recognized one of them to be my cellmate. I closed the blinds
It was
to
the
the door
cellmate.
and continued
What?
closing the rest of the windows. I couldn't believe he found me, but he was obviously there to rob our house blind after I told him how my parents were away. He must have seen dollar signs when I told him the side of town I was in, and he probably heard my name called in the courtroom, and one quick Google search of my simple name turned up my address.
Oh my
2 dudes
gosh.
took off, I believe, because I didn't hear from them the rest of the night. I never told my parents I was arrested, and because of that, I never told them about how my cellmate almost came and robbed our house.
Yeah, I was just thinking, how would that guy know where you live unless you gave him your address? But that makes sense,
This
I
is
guess.
something that just happened to me, and I don't know how to feel about it other than freaked out. I'm not a spiritual person at all. I've been on and off seeing this guy named Spencer. I met him through a coworker one night when we were out together at a bar, and we hit it off. I finally introduced him to my family, and while my parents were indifferent about him, my grandparents didn't really care for him. My grandma especially.
Oh, good old
They both said they
grandparents.
saw something bad in him, that he doesn't seem like a good guy. My grandma mostly. This wasn't after one-time meeting though. This was after I brought him around multiple times, and everyone could get a good idea about him. And honestly, I started to see what they meant, because Spencer and I would get into constant arguments, and he would lose his temper fairly easy on me. For this, we'd be on and off constantly. There was one night that I felt like he was about to raise his hands to me.
What?
He held back and then calmed down. This was when I said, "I'm done," and dropped him. Or so I thought I was going to.
Oh gosh, is Spencer gonna stalk her?
My grandma was especially happy and said I could do much better. Then she went on about how I should go find a nice Italian boy.
Hey, what's up, Aaron? What's up, everyone? Looking for something to watch while I snack? My dude is live. Hey, I'm just watching some Mr. Nightmare videos, some scary reactions. Just chilling, hanging out, man. So welcome to the stream, Aaron.
From a nice family like she always did. Anyway, not long after this, my grandma died of a heart attack. During my grieving, I hung a picture of my grandma up on my wall in my room to commemorate her.
That's freaking sad.
This was only a month ago. I'd been having a horrible month. And out of weakness, when Spencer reached out to me 2 weeks ago, I answered, and we saw each other.
Oh,
we had been seeing each other every night these past 2 weeks.
Not Spencer.
I really thought he had changed because we hadn't argued a single time, and I just felt safe around him. Well, only a few days ago, Spencer and I agreed to be official boyfriend and girlfriend.
No problem, Aaron.
That night, I woke up to a crash in my room. I panicked and flicked on the lamp, and it took me a moment to notice the picture of my grandma wasn't on the wall anymore. I got up and saw the frame had fallen to the floor and cracked. The picture frame I hung of my grandma had fallen and cracked on the night I agreed to date Spencer. I held the frame in my hand, my heart in my throat, my whole body shaking. I called Spencer the next.
Guys, the grandma who passed away, she didn't like Spencer. She started seeing Spencer again after her grandma died, and the picture of the grandma fell off the wall. I think that was the spirit of the grandma. I think that was grandma's spirit saying, "Hey, I told you I don't like Spencer." Wow, that's creepy.
Day and told him I think we should go our separate ways for a while, as my head isn't in the right place. And he blew up on the phone in anger, and that phone call proved my grandma was right about him.
Grandma doesn't approve, lol. Yeah, right?
What could have caused it? There was no draft in the room. Even as I imagined that it was somehow a sign from my grandma, do you realize how freaking scary that is?
What are the odds? I think that was the grandma spirit. I don't think... That's not a coincidence, I don't believe.
I took my Jeep on a road trip to Colorado to do some off-roading in the wilderness. I was doing a bunch of trails in the Red Feather Lakes, and I was ending the night off on the Dead Man's Road Trail. It was a somewhat challenging trail, but the scenery was unbeatable. I packed a sleeping bag and planned on sleeping in the back of my Jeep with the back seats folded down. I pulled somewhere off the immediate trail, just off the slight chance some other night drivers would pass by. But that was very unlikely. I guess people can call me a weirdo for enjoying off-roading on my own and camping alone, but I've always liked doing things solo.
Off-roading, okay. Camping by yourself, that is a little weird, I'm not gonna lie. I would not go camping by myself.
I use the word camping because I do consider this to just be luxury camping.
You don't know, Marissa. You don't know.
I'm in the back of my Jeep in the middle of the woods. I ate some of the protein bars and other snacks I brought as my little dinner. Then I set up my sleeping bag in the back. In case you're wondering if I was doing this in the dark, I had the LED light bar on my Jeep on, which basically lit up the entire surrounding area pretty nicely. So I finally crawl into the sleeping bag. And I'd be lying if I said it's comfortable sleeping back there. It's the price to pay for off-roading.
Right, Pokemon?
I had the windows all closed to avoid bugs getting in, but I still heard everything outside. And then it happened. I heard a voice from out in the woods, followed by a short, loud laughter. As deep into the trail I was, there's no way someone was just walking around out there. Not in this total darkness. I looked out the windows expecting to see headlights or taillights somewhere. Nope. Then I heard the voice again, much clearer. I couldn't tell if it was a man or a
Grandma
woman
was just trying to protect
shaking now, though.
Her granddaughter.
Someone was out there, that much was clear. Though I was hearing a voice, I didn't know what was being said.
Yeah, right, Metal Ryan, right?
And I laid there.
Bring something to defend yourself.
Scared to death. For a while, just crickets. Then, much closer now, I heard in a clear voice, belonging to either a woman or a young boy, "Hello, I see you there." Now I was ready to throw up. I wanted to move to the driver's seat and drive, but I was too scared to move. I felt like if I just stayed laying down, that whoever was out there wouldn't see me. I know that makes no sense, but hiding and not moving was me clinging on to the hope that this wasn't actually happening. Then, there was one loud bang on my rear windshield, and I jumped up and practically dove over the 2 front seats into the driver's seat. And I started the car and drove as quickly as I could manage down the trail, scared they were running after me because I could only go so fast on this rocky terrain. I was scared to look in the rearview mirror, but when I did, I didn't see anyone through the red glow of my taillights. It was a nightmare. I was tired, but drove the rest of the trail until I was back on pavement.
Right,
Then I
Dylan?
drove for miles until I reached a motel.
The music
Some
isn't
people have asked
helping.
me, what if it was someone stranded who needed help? And I say no way. No one's out there that late in the pitch black, laughing without a flashlight that deep on some trail.
Yeah, out in the woods, someone's laughing in the middle of the night. I don't think they need help. Maybe mental help. But I don't think they're in distress. Someone's out in the middle of the woods laughing. They might need mental help.
And they wouldn't bang on my windshield just once like that if they weren't trying to scare me.
Right, Yoshi?
People are
Piano.
messed up. Always watch your back.
Piano
and be woke
music
to your
is always
surroundings.
creepy, right? I know, Dylan. I've been watching Mr. Nightmare for years.
This is one of the few unexplainable events I've experienced in my life. I was home upstairs in my room, writing my paper for my history class. As far as I knew, I was home alone. But apparently I was mistaken, because my mom's voice called out from downstairs, yelling my name. I called back, "What?" She didn't answer. So, slightly annoyed because I didn't want to be interrupted from my train of thought on my
It's
paper,
not your
I
mom.
reluctantly got up to go downstairs and see what she wanted.
It's a
When
ghost
I got downstairs, I looked
mimicking
around for
your
my mom,
mom's
but
voice.
She wasn't anywhere in sight, so I yelled out, "Mom?"
Some spirits do that. They mimic a loved one's voice. It's not the mom here. It's something supernatural mimicking the mother's voice. I guarantee it.
And she yelled back my name in response. Her voice came from down in the basement. So I went to the basement door, but strangely the lights were off. I called down the stairs, "Mom?" again.
Oh, hell
and she called
no.
back. I yelled out, "What are you doing down there with the lights off?"
Not the
She didn't
basement.
respond. I flicked on the light
Not
and
the
went down
basement.
stairs.
No.
I heard my mom call my name again as I was near to the bottom of the steps. It was getting weird. Each time she called my name, it sounded exactly the same. Like there was zero difference in inflection
Yeah, right,
every
Aaron?
single time she said my name.
That's not your
I
mom.
yelled out "Mom" again. She once again yelled back my name. She was nowhere to be seen in the basement. But then I noticed the little crawl space closet door was open. I
Oh,
call it that
no.
because it's a weird closet that you have to kind of crawl into, but it takes up a large chunk of the basement. That was the only place left in the basement.
My
that
ass
mom
is
could be.
not going
So I
through that
said,
little
"Mom,"
doorway.
one final time.
Hell no.
No answer this time. I went closer to the closet door and got on my knees just to try and look in. It was pitch black inside, and I was starting to get freaked out. I said, "Mom, are you messing with me?"
You couldn't pay me to
There was
go
no
in that
response at
little
all. Just a
crawl
quiet buzzing
space.
sound from the basement light.
Heck no.
I got back up, and for some reason decided to sprint back upstairs, slamming and locking the basement door behind me. I didn't know what I had just witnessed.
You know what, Ray? I was just thinking that. I recently did a Mr. Nightmare reaction that I dropped today, and I think I asked that in the reaction I dropped today. Said, what's creepier, an attic or a creepy basement? I feel like basements are a little creepier, but there's some creepy ass attics out there too. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Witnessed and heard, but I went to grab the house phone and call my mom's cell number. It rang a few times until my mom picked up, and I learned that she was out grocery shopping. I told her, but she didn't believe my story, of course. She thought I was messing with her. It took half an hour of begging her to believe me that she finally went along with it, and when she and my dad were both home, we all went down to the basement together. The closet door was still open. My dad went inside, but there was no one in there. This still remains to be the most haunting, unexplainable experience of my life.
I put a poll in the chat, guys. What's creepier? Attics or basements?
I was only about 9 years old when this happened. I was sleeping over my grandma's house for the weekend, which I often did when I was little. It was a stormy day out, and my grandma was out at the nearby grocery store getting ingredients for dinner. I was in the living room watching SpongeBob when the phone rang. There was obviously zero reason for me to answer the phone, but, you know, I was a little kid with a little kid brain. There's no explaining
SpongeBob!
any decisions
Yes.
made. I went to the kitchen and picked up the phone, and after my little kid voice said hello into the phone, the man's voice on the other end said, "Can I speak to the adult in the house?" I said, "She's not home," and the voice responded, "So you're all alone right now?" I remember I paused for a second, then said, "Yeah." Even at my age, I knew after he asked that it probably wasn't a good idea to have picked up the phone. The person on the other end then asked if the current address he had on file was correct, but I didn't answer that. I hung up the phone, and now I was nervous. I was worried I might have just gotten my grandma.
Yeah, some guy just called and said, "Can I speak to the adult in the house? My grandma's not home." The guy said, "Oh, so you're home alone?" This is a setup for a freaking kidnapping right here. Oh, gosh.
In trouble. Nonetheless, I went back to watching SpongeBob. 20 minutes later or so, there was a frantic knocking at the door. I muted the TV and listened. Along with the knocking, someone on the other end.
Well, guys, it looks like basements won. What's creepier, basements or attics? Basements won by a landslide, 72%. Basements, 27%. Attics. I think basements won.
Cried out, "Please help." It was a man. I snuck over to the edge of the wall
Please
where the
help.
opening for the front door was to take a peek and see if I saw anyone standing on the other side of the door through the glass at the top of the door. That was a mistake, because I did, and they saw me too. The man on the other side of the door immediately said, "Little boy, please open the door, I'm hurt bad." I ran to the corner of the room by the window and closed the blinds so I could hide behind the couch. I was so scared. There were no cell phones back then.
Oh,
I couldn't
gosh.
call my grandma. The man kept pounding on the door, his cries for help turning more annoyed sounding, and his knocks got louder and more frequent. Then
this freaking guy knew. He made the phone call. This guy knew that this kid was home alone. And I was like, "Oh, help, help, open the door, help me." This kid would have been kidnapped. Oh my gosh.
Sounds on the door stopped, and he started knocking on the window right next to me. The creep started saying things like, "I'm not gonna hurt you," and "Please, I'm bleeding bad." I started to cry in the corner, still hiding behind the couch. The pounding stopped finally, and after a minute, I ran to my grandma's room and locked the door. I laid in her bed under the covers with only my head sticking out.
Attics with clowns? That's creepy.
Distant thunder was weirdly calming, at least for a little bit. The man on the other side appeared at one of the windows and started trying to lift it open. Thank God all the windows were locked. Now I hid under the covers completely, and I don't think he saw me in there. This was the last time I saw or heard that man. 20 minutes later, I heard my grandma come in through the front door. I ran into her arms, crying and apologizing, and told her everything. She of course called the police, and when the officers needed me to give whatever details I could, my grandma called me into the room and I answered their questions. Then she sent me back off to the guest bedroom to watch
Damn,
TV.
Erwin, that's crazy.
Fortunately, that man was never caught. For this, at least. My grandma never told my parents, and she told me not to tell them either. But she also never left me alone.
My grandma said not to tell my parents. Gosh.
Again, anytime I slept over after that, which wasn't many times. Long story short, I was one unlocked door away from undoubtedly being kidnapped.
It depends on the basement, Kelly. Now, there's some finished basements. Not all basements are creepy. Just like not all attics are creepy. So it just depends.
I'm the father of 2 kids. They're 15 and 10. My wife was out of the house at the time of this happening. I was in my room taking a nap in the middle of the day. My older son is always in and out all day, every day with his friends. So when I heard the front door constantly opening and closing, it didn't concern me. But eventually, when I heard the storm door slam shut for a 4th time, I started to get annoyed and whistled at him to quiet down. I started hearing other loud noises from across the hallway, in the direction of my younger son Keith's room.
Did someone break in the house?
He was playing with his wrestling toys or something. Regardless, even with my door shut, the noise got to be too much. It was just like a constant thumping sound. Like, what could Keith possibly be doing? When I went across the hall to his room, the noise became more clear, and it was this literal thumping on the wall sound. I went into his room. The door was already opened. I said Keith's name angrily, but I didn't see my son. I saw some grown man facing the wall, banging his head into the wall.
What?
There was blood on the wall from his constant banging. The man gave me a side glance without turning his whole head. I managed to tackle the man to the floor, and that's when Keith emerged from under his sheets where he was hiding. The man didn't fight back. He started yelling this psychotic mumbo-jumbo, proving his lacking sanity. I told
That's
Keith to go get the
freaking
house phone
weird.
while I held the man down. After calling the police, I was in that same position for at least 5 minutes before they arrived. The man just kept smiling and laughing and saying things that made no sense the entire time. The man was ill or on some serious drugs, or both. I didn't press charges, and I'm sure he was taken somewhere to get the help he clearly needed and to get him off the streets.
Oh, man. Some guy was hitting his head on the wall? That's not freaking weird at all, is it?
I've had many night terrors in my life, and I've struggled with many sleeping
Probably,
disorders.
Aaron.
Hell, I can't even count how many times I've experienced sleep paralysis. It's a truly disturbing thing. I've also woken to seeing spiders and other giant bugs in my bed countless times, for them to only disappear as I start to snap back to reality. But the hallucinations are always so real and vivid. I always find myself jumping out of my bed screaming, throwing pillows at the non-existent bugs. And don't even get me started on the constant nightmares I have. There was one stressful week of school that I was up to my ears in
This is a
homework with all my
creepy
classes,
picture.
and I was admittedly exhausted.
You can't
mentally
see
and
the
physically.
person's face.
With half of my assignments due the next day, which was Friday, I was up extremely late for a school night. It had to be like 3 a.m., and I had to be up in 3 hours. When I finally finished all of my assignments, I literally crashed into bed, and I was out cold faster than I could remember. And that night, I was having a bad dream again. The best I could describe this bizarre dream, I was for some reason in this
I hate
linear
bad
building
dreams
that I
or
was trying to
nightmares.
escape, and in each passing room, I kept finding candies, like it was a Halloween attraction or something. But in the dream, I
Candies?
was running
What?
away from something, and the something I was running away from kept laughing. It was a child's laughter, and it sounded like it was coming from everywhere. What caused me to wake up was when I made it to what was presumed to be the final door of the building. The laughing was the loudest.
Oh, gosh.
And when I opened the door, I woke up in my bed. I couldn't move. It was happening again. Then there was a laughter from the middle
Oh,
of the
no.
room.
Sleep
I moved my eyes to
paralysis.
focus to the middle of the room.
Sleep
There were
paralysis.
4 people standing in the center of the room. It was like a family, a tall male and female, and then a small boy and
What
girl.
the
They were all
hell?
holding hands and they were all laughing, looking at me with giant grins on their faces, impossibly wide grins. And as I felt this tight pressure in my chest, which is common in sleep paralysis, I started to feel like they were getting bigger, or just getting closer, like they were all floating towards me. When my body finally permitted, I threw the sheets off of me and threw my pillows into the middle of the room and screamed. But the pillows hid nothing, as the 4 figures were gone, and the horrible laughing had stopped.
They disappeared.
I had never
Oh my
experienced a
gosh.
hallucination like that, and I have had sleep paralysis many times. I had to see my doctor the next day, who prescribed me new medication. Since then, I've still had my share of night terrors, but nothing even close to that.
Damn.